Hi everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the summer vlog series here at Embodied Beings. I'm Alexa, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a big topic, a very popular topic, and probably one that's relatable to everyone, and that is digestion through the lens of yoga therapy. So I chose this because this is actually the way that I got into yoga therapy over 2.5 years ago as a patient. I had been struggling with chronic digestive issues since I was about 7 years old. So it was 20 years of having these issues before I started to get some answers and some practices that would help heal me over time. I'm also talking about it because this is something that is truly applicable to everyone. I don't think I've ever met a client or a friend or a family member who hasn't at some point in their life struggled either with weight gain or diet or disordered eating, poor relationship with food, poor assimilation of nutrients, like things to do with dietary challenges and also digestive challenges. This is a huge topic, and I am only giving a brief overview, but hopefully it will give you a bit of a sense of where I'm coming from as a yoga therapist when I look at digestion, healthy digestion, and what it means for our overall quality of life, and how we can use yogic practices to get to the roots of where the digestive challenges or issues are coming from. Like I said, I came to yoga therapy because of my digestive issues. It was about 2.5 years ago. I was in Copenhagen studying at Agama, and I remember one of the teachers saying during a lecture about purification and cleansing that, like, without proper diet and good digestion, there would be a lot of blockages in the spiritual path. And admittedly, I grew up as and am still very much a type A personality, and I didn't want anything getting in my way of my spiritual quest. So I ended up in the Agama Healing Center with Surya. Hi, Surya, my first yoga therapist. And she started asking me all sorts of questions. This was my first ever yoga therapy consultation. It started off with questions about diet and lifestyle. I had told her that when I was 7 years old, I experienced this sensation in my abdomen of what I could describe as 1,000 knives just stabbing me all over my gut. This is how I would also explain it to doctors as I was growing up and they were trying to find the root of what was causing these pains. I also suffered from chronic heartburn. Sometimes the heartburn was so bad that there would be acid like in my esophagus for 3 or 4 days and I wouldn't be able to eat. I'd barely be able to drink water. Also, other symptoms of what was once diagnosed as irritable bowel syndrome, like constipation, bloating, pain in the belly, sensitivity to different foods. And I tried a lot of different things. I tried cutting out gluten, I tried cutting out dairy, I tried different stress reduction techniques. And some of them were effective and some of them weren't. But over time, I got to learn about my body and about myself and these symptoms that they would come up at certain times. And I couldn't always trace them to food. I couldn't trace them to like overeating. Sometimes I would get heartburn for what seemed like absolutely no reason. And most of the doctors I went to were stumped. They went through all of the major tests. I even had an ultrasound at one point to look at the organs in my belly, see what was going on, and nothing showed up. So I landed in the lap of the healing center, and my yoga therapist, she started asking me, like I said, about diet and lifestyle. And then she started going into other questions about my emotional state, about what life was like for me as a child, all of these really intimate details. And the dots that she was able to connect showed that I had a lot of suppressed anger. I had a lot of heavy, what we call tamasic energy around me. And I had quite a lot of stress, like both in my abdomen and in my pelvic floor. And all of these things were contributing, or so we thought, to these symptoms, these IBS symptoms, these heartburn symptoms, and overall the issues with digestion. I got prescribed a yoga therapy program, so different practices that I would do 3 or 4 times a week, and I worked with this over the course of 3 months. At the end of 3 months, truthfully, probably after about 1 month, I started to feel a lot of changes. Not all of them were comfortable. For me, because there was a lot of suppressed anger, like a lot of that anger started coming up when I was working deeply in the area of the abdomen. And this was a good thing, like the anger was coming up, the emotions were coming up. I made some modifications to my diet. I made motions to increase my mindfulness, to reduce stress. And eventually I noticed, wow, there are like no symptoms left. It was a very gradual thing. It's not like I woke up one morning and suddenly I was all better. It happened over several months, and it's something I'm still working with. So, for example, I still notice heartburn comes up when I'm in a big transition, when I'm having trouble digesting some of the things going on in my life, physically, but also mentally and emotionally. And it's an ongoing project, but I used to suffer a lot from these symptoms, and a lot of the suffering came from not knowing like why I was suffering. So just to get someone to help me see what was going on and a more holistic perspective of what was going on in all of my bodies, physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies, it was so helpful. I didn't feel hopeless about my body or about my health. I didn't feel like I had to take like over the counter heartburn medication every day for the rest of my life. So I've experienced quite a lot of healing with this. So when it comes to the topic of digestion, and it's important to our physical, emotional, and mental well-being, allopathic Western medicine and yogic and Eastern traditional medicines are essentially saying the same thing, which is that it's absolutely crucial to live a balanced, healthy life. But we also see, also through both lenses, that digestive issues are like one of those things that plague so many people, and in different ways. Some of the major issues right now, at least in the United States and in a lot of Western countries, are things like chronic heartburn, constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, GERD, a lot of different issues that fall under the umbrella of metabolic syndrome, and also colon cancer, which is the second most cause of death when it comes to cancer-causing deaths in the United States. And from a Western perspective, when doctors are looking at these issues, and also in yoga therapy, because we appreciate this Western perspective as well, we tie it into how we work with clients. We look at like what's happening at the cellular level a lot of the time, or at least at the physiological level. So like there could be inflammation in the intestines, right? There could be an allergy to a certain food. In metabolic syndromes or cases of diabetes, it could be an issue of the pancreas, like the pancreas is just exhausted from producing insulin. Stress is a major factor that influences a lot of digestive issues. And we look at these, but when we move more into the mode of yoga therapy when it comes to healing, The difference is we look at each person as an individual, and we look at their body. And when I say their body, I mean physical, emotional, and mental aspects of what's going on. We look at all of these processes individually, and we see how they're all connecting, like what's at play. And when someone comes to me as a yoga therapist, when a client comes to me and we're talking about digestion, there are a few things that I look for to see, like, what's out of balance. That's mostly what I'm looking for, okay? So we're looking for the root, which means that I may have 5 different clients come to me in a week, all of them experiencing symptoms of IBS, of irritable bowel syndrome. But based on the questions that I go into with them, we might learn that it's for completely different reasons, which is why the treatment is also going to be highly individualized. Whereas for one client, it might be an issue of suppressed anger from early childhood trauma. With another, it might be chronic stress from a really stressful job. So we would probably work more with balancing the nervous system to be able to manage stress more, as opposed to in the first case with the suppression of anger, it would be coming more into a state of relaxation in that area of the body, but also looking into the emotions and finding a way to safely make those emotions move. So this is what I look at from the yoga therapy perspective, and I then put together a treatment program based on individual needs. And this is just as specific for the individual as like the questions I asked them and the answers that came up. And what we would do is put together a program of different asanas, so physical postures, possibly breathing techniques, pranayama, to help get the energy moving, and also usually a meditation and a relaxation process. And in this way, we're getting at the physical, energetic, emotional, and mental bodies in a really complete, cohesive way. And this is what I love about yoga therapy. So it takes quite a lot of creative but also critical thinking, because I am looking at different medical perspectives and what they would say about certain symptoms of digestion, but also looking at the individual and seeing, okay, what's going to work? Like, what does this person need? What is going to motivate them? How can we create this program so that it's more or less seamless to weave into their lifestyle, because this is also a crucial aspect. And when it comes to digestion, we are working to usually decrease stress and also become mindful of like what the cause is of the digestive issues, whether it's the assimilation of nutrients or elimination or disordered eating, things like this. So that's what I have to say about some of the processes that go into digestion and what it's like to work with a yoga therapist and work with me, especially if we were to go into your digestive issues and giving tips for improving digestion and offering a more healthy digestive path. And I'm going to leave you today with some basic tips on how you can work to either improve your digestion or maintain healthy digestion, because you can look at this, you can look at all your bodies rather, like physical, mental, emotional, and energetic bodies, through a digestive lens. So what is your digestion saying about how you're doing in life, and like vice versa, how is your life affecting your digestion? The first thing I want to offer as a tip, and it seems super simple, it's simply eat when you're hungry. So ask yourself, like when you're about to eat a meal, am I actually hungry? There's an old Zen saying, a Zen proverb that goes something like, the enlightened being, the enlightened person or master is just someone who eats when they're hungry, drinks when they're thirsty, and sleeps when they're tired. So, in other words, they're not only aware of the processes in their body and what they need at that time, but they follow them. And I find that for most people who come to me, and myself included, it's just being aware of those needs and listening to them that actually takes the most refinement at this point, the most work. So, yeah, when you sit down to eat, ask yourself, am I hungry? Like, do I feel the sensation of hunger in my stomach? Am I ready to take this food into my body? And if you're not hungry, just ask yourself, okay, then what am I? Like, am I feeling stressed? Am I feeling sad? Am I feeling agitated in my mind? Is my mind in other places? And if it is time to eat, if you do want to be eating a meal, be sure to take a few minutes to like relax beforehand. So really just 2.5, 3 minutes to take a few breaths and sit with yourself and relax the digestive organs, prepare the body for taking in food so that it can assimilate it properly. My next tip is to sit properly when you're eating. Again, this seems like super simple, but it's something I catch myself with quite often still. Like I'll be hunching over as I eat or eating really quickly. So sitting in a relaxed but like upright position can be really helpful for proper digestion. If you are already a yogi and you're watching this, then I recommend sitting in Vajrasana in the diamond pose, and this will help to lighten the energies in the body as you're digesting your food so that you don't feel as heavy afterwards. And finally, after eating, I recommend that you take some time, again, 2, 3, even 5 minutes, ideally more like 10 or 15 minutes, to just sit and like relax and let your body digest. I find that this is something that we often skip, and like even some health coaches I've talked to and nutritionists, they focus on like the process of eating, so the importance of eating slowly, eating in a relaxed state of mind. But we also want to remember that the digestive process is happening for hours after we eat. And in those first few minutes, and like I said, ideally 10 or 15 minutes after eating a meal, I encourage you to just relax so that the digestive process can have a really smooth start. And this will likely help a lot when it comes to allowing the food to be processed correctly, and especially nutrients to be assimilated. Good. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for listening to my story and a little bit about the yogic perspective of digestion and the tips that you can use, the basic tips you can use in your everyday life to help encourage a healthy digestive process. I am always available for more questions. If you have them, please feel free to comment below this video. If you have additional questions, I can try to weave those into the next 10 weeks of this vlog series. And if you're feeling like you'd like a deeper consultation, then I'm also available through that. So please send me a private message and we can organize that. If you're having chronic digestive issues and you'd appreciate a yogic perspective and even more individualized tools that you can use at home to help restore balance in the body and healthy digestion. Good. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Bye-bye.